Hello again, I'm Audie Jake, and welcome back to Autistic Reviews, the series in which I review media featuring autistic characters on the basis of how good it is representation-wise. Today we are going to be taking a look at the 2017 film Please Stand By. Please Stand By is a film starring Dakota Fanning, based off a 2008 play of the same name. It first appeared in a variety of film festivals, before getting a simultaneous release in theaters and on demand in 2018. Please Stand By is the story of Wendy, a 21-year-old autistic girl who lives in a group home. The story is about Wendy's journey to turn in her Star Trek fanfiction script to a story writing contest. But in reality, the story is really about Wendy's search for more independence. The people in Wendy's life, from her sister to her caretaker Scotty, are constantly underestimating her, don't let her try anything new, and speak about her and treat her as a burden. What I loved so much about this movie was just how subversive it was with its narrative. For instance, you have the sister, who treats Wendy as a burden, and does stuff like break down into a crying fit because her sister had a meltdown. But the narrative of the movie treats her as being in the wrong. Or you have the stifling caretaker, who has rules about Wendy not being allowed to cross Market Street, and the film playing it as a triumphant thing when Wendy ignores this rule and crosses the road anyway. And you have scenes like when the caretaker, as part of a daily routine, makes Wendy make eye contact with her, which is a big no. I don't like this because eye contact can be painful for autistic people. Honestly, you could say that the whole of the movie is about Wendy being deeply frustrated with how infantilized she is by the people around her. You can see how frustrated she has become in moments like when she bursts out in anger when Scotty says they need to do names and places, and in how when asked if she likes the group home she says, "No, I have to eat pizzas on Thursdays even if I don't want to. I can't watch TV when I want to. Can't write when I want to." This is supported by the fact that the catalyst for the main conflict of the movie is Wendy's sister refusing to listen to Wendy when she insists that she's ready to leave the group home. Wendy feels deeply underestimated by her sister and wants to prove herself to her. Honestly, the sister is my least favorite character in the movie. She infantilizes Wendy and treats her like a burden. There's the moment where she gets all emotional watching a video of Wendy having a meltdown as a child, or how when she visits the caretaker she says, "Thank you for working with Wendy, I know how difficult she can be." And I kind of got the impression that she hardly ever visits her sister. But worst of all is the fact that she refuses to let Wendy see her niece, because she's afraid that she'll hurt her. Honestly, the character might have been too much for me, if the narrative didn't portray her as being in the wrong, and if the movie didn't have her changing her attitude to Wendy by the end of the film. The story starts off with Wendy finishing her script for the Star Trek contest. When Wendy's sister visits her, Wendy tries to tell her sister Audrey that she's ready to leave the group home and go home with her, but Audrey refuses to listen to anything that Wendy says, which leads to a meltdown. Then, upset that she's missed out on a chance to mail her script in, Wendy decides to sneak out of her group home and go to LA to hand it in person. Along with her dog Pete, she boards a bus to LA, but is eventually kicked off when her dog pees on the bus. After a series of events, a bus that she gets on gets into an accident and she ends up in the hospital but quickly escapes. Eventually, she is caught by the cops and reunited with her caretaker and sister, who take her the rest of the way to where she needs to turn her script in. And I'm not going to spoil it, but I absolutely love the scene in the end in which the script is turned in and how the whole conflict is resolved. I also really liked her speech about how hard it is to write something and pour everything you have into it. Let's talk positives. First, I have to state that I absolutely love Wendy's characterization as an autistic woman. I love all the little details, from the awkward way that she talks to how she does this thing with her arms, like this, as a substitute for hugging. I love her intense special interest in Star Trek and how she's able to relate it to things that she does. I love the way that she's really blunt about saying what's on her mind. It reminds me of myself, like how when asked if she likes her job, she replies, "No, it sucks." I really love that the writers let Wendy use curse words when she is angry. This is something that I feel not a lot of autism representation does. Normally it's really clean and sanitized and the character never curses. But I like how this shows that we get angry and curse too. I love the way that she has scripts for different situations. You can see it in the way that she has a script for a job at Cinnabon, and how she constantly repeats the script for when and how to turn in the Star Trek fanfic to help her remember. I love that she has a schedule for what she does at what time and what clothes she wears each day. And the nice detail, as I noticed, is how when she gets to a noisier part of the city, she starts to cover her ears like this with her hands because of sensory overload. I also really love how her Star Trek fanfic focuses on Spock, because Spock is a character that many autistic people fear is autistic coded. The meltdown scene was pretty well done, and you can really understand why it happens. The deep frustration of being underestimated and not listened to. I also like how she has a phrase that she says to help calm down, which is "please stand by." And I love how she has to write things down that she has to do in her notebook. As for negatives, one thing I noticed is that I don't like how the caretaker restrains Wendy during and after her meltdown. Also, while it is extremely obvious that the character is autistic, the movie never uses the word autism or autistic or even euphemism for autism like on the spectrum. Maybe this is nitpicking, but I would much prefer my autism representation to be as explicit as possible. Also, while Dakota Fanning does a good job with this movie, I would have much preferred if they had hired an actually autistic actress to play the role of an autistic woman. I've said this before, but it makes it feel much more authentic because we know what it's like, and it gives autistic actors a break into the industry. On the bright side, I do know that they have 4 autistic actors in the cast, which is great. I'd have to say that Please Stand By is, in my opinion, a wonderful bit of representation that manages to subvert a lot of harmful stereotypes. This was a movie that I very much enjoyed, and I recommend wholeheartedly to anyone looking for good representation. I hope we get more autism representation as well done as this one was in the future. Have you seen Please Stand By, or are you planning on seeing it? What did you think of it? Do you agree or disagree with what I said? Let me know in the comments down below. Until next time,